And done with Sean Salisbury talking some college and NFL football. We go to the man, Jerry Reynolds. In a couple of minutes, Ryan and Sacktown will join us. Boy, Jerry, that was an ugly game to watch last night. Sacramento. I mean, you could not have the table set any better. Playing a team that had lost 11 in a row, who had played the night before in Denver, and they came in and beat you.
Oh, you couldn't. I mean that, and not even having some of their best players.
Yeah,
I mean, this
yeah,
is a clearly a bad weak team
yeah.
coming in, decimated with some key guys out, LaMelo Ball and Gordon Hayward. I mean, and their rookie Brandon Miller. I mean, and no, it was, as a Kings fan, which is what I am, and I like this team, but there was nothing to like about last night. I thought one of the first times I thought, they played like they were a championship, or act like they were a championship caliber team, and they're not good enough to act like that. They have to grit it out and outwork people, and they did none of that.
The Kings are 100% healthy, and in the last week they've got two horrible losses. They lost to Portland, who entered the game with only 3 home wins. They got beat badly. Last night, again, they lost to a bad team without their best players. And so I keep on going back to this. You and I talked about this at halftime yesterday. We all talked about it with Ryan. Do I think the Kings are a good team? Yeah. I think because to me they're better than average, but to me they're not anything better than good. And I just right now, again, things can change, but right now, based on all the games they played this year, they are wildly inconsistent. And I just don't have any hope that they're going to just all of a sudden get to the playoffs, assuming they make the playoffs in April and win a playoff series. I just don't think they're good enough right now.
Well, they really haven't shown it. Now they have had some big wins. Minnesota at Minnesota,
Yeah.
Denver at home. So they've
Without
beaten some
Jamal
of the
Murray, though, Jerry.
at Oklahoma City. They beat so they beat the three top teams in the West. Okay, so you look at that, but I totally agree with your premise. Is that no, based on the stats, and I study some stats, the win margin is what it is, and that indicates that they're playing at like a 41-42 win team. And the West being what it is, if it stays, most of the teams stay healthy, it's going to be tough. I think my biggest frustration with them, and I really enjoy this team because they're so unselfish about it every night, except obviously they have some more blowouts and more bad games than they should have. But it's just a case in my mind where the offseason they did not improve themselves and expected, just being together enough to make them better. And I think generally you can count on that, and it still may play, but it's a case where the competition now is not being surprised by the Kings.
Yeah.
I mean, the Kings last year really got so many baskets just by pushing the ball up after made baskets. Now they don't get many of those anymore, and teams are much better about being aware of what the Kings get it in fast, and like they did last year. Well, they're trying to do that, but teams are getting back better.
Jerry, is Harrison Barnes not a good fit with the other 4 starters on the floor, or is he's just mystifying to me? Do you make a change there? Do you try him on the bench? What do you do if you're Mike Brown?
I think you have to think about it, and I mean, I think with honestly, he and Herter both have been quite honestly very disappointing.
Yeah.
I mean, not to saying you wouldn't like more out of different guys, but I think with Kevin and Barnes, and I think Vesnikov have all been the big disappointments for me. I was expecting significantly more from all of them, and I've said before, and I'll say it again, and I mean fans would see it differently, and you might, but I think there's 4 guys on this team that you build around and you build your team around. And of course, that's Fox, Domas, Keegan Murray, and Malik Monk. Those are the guys that you're not likely, you need to keep if you can and add to. And that doesn't mean that, that you wouldn't want to keep a Trey Lyles or somebody. But I'm just saying those are the four that I think you better build a fort around.
All right, you and I have a little bit of a difference of opinion on Keegan Murray. I like him. I wouldn't trade him. I agree with you that you build around him. There are just too many games to me where I'm expecting more. And I'm not expecting him to be an all-star. I'm not expecting him to score 25 points every night. There are just too many games like last night. Okay, he played 37 minutes. He didn't shoot the ball well. Okay, but what did he have? 4 rebounds in 37 minutes. I don't like those type of games from him. And yes, I understand even the best players in the league have them. There are too many, to make a baseball analogy, 0 for 4 games for him. That's the only complaint I have about the guy. And again, I'm on record. I wouldn't trade him. I like him. I think he's going to be a really important piece moving forward for a long time. I wouldn't trade him, but I just don't like his off nights. There are too many for me.
Well, I do think that's part of the growing process. I think he blends in sometimes to a fault. He's a very team orientated kind of guy. But I mean, I do think just from the growth standpoint, he went from, averaging almost 12 points a game as a rookie. He's averaging over 15 now, and he's averaging more rebounds. So he's more active. He's doing more things in the paint than he
And he's
did.
better defensively.
And he's really, they put him in a lot of tough defensive situations,
Yeah.
which for a second year player, I don't think that helps his offense. I mean, and I'm not saying they're using him wrong there, but because I think eventually that will be, the Kings will need him to be able to, with his length and athleticism, really guard some different positions. But yeah, I think I wouldn't disagree. I don't know, going back through the years with rookies and second year guys, how many, empty games they had. I suspect quite a few, but I think he's a potential star. I really do. I mean, because yeah, he's a hard-working, great kid that can
No,
make
he's great.
shots, and
He's great.
now, is he going to be an all-star? I can't say that. I mean, I don't know, but here again, I mean, I think he's part of the solution. And if you can ever be good enough to where he's your fourth best player or fifth best player in a couple of years when he's developed, then you may be somewhere.
Okay, I'm looking at these numbers that to me don't change year in, year out with the Sacramento Kings. Of the top 10 teams in the Western Conference, starting with Minnesota and going all the way down currently to the Lakers, there's only one team that's allowing more points than the Sacramento Kings, and that's the Dallas Mavericks. And so I'm going to go back to this. Can you win giving up 116.6 points on average every night? And my answer to that is not really. And that just jumps out at me. This team's defense is just terrible. They don't stop dribble penetration. They don't stop teams inside. If they're not making their threes for all intents and purposes, and by the way, Jerry, that's the way the NBA's played now. A lot of teams could say, well, we didn't make threes and you lose. But for the Kings, it's so defined. They make threes. They're normally in games and win. They don't make threes. And also, Jerry, they're horrible at the free throw line. Their free throws are terrible.
Yeah, I mean, no, I agree with that. I mean, I think this team defensively is just not good enough to win consistently. In other words, I mean, when they're really having their best shooting nights, they can beat just about anybody, as we've seen.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit of a house of cards. There's nights when you, like say, you don't shoot well, like last night and the other thing, they normally take pretty good care of the ball.
Yes.
But if they don't take good care of the ball, they almost never win. I mean, this is a team that really, that's such a key stat. So no, I mean, I think when you just look at the thing that scares me and is when you look at the West and you look at, say, the Lakers. The Kings have beaten the Lakers. We know that, but
Yeah.
they still have a guy named LeBron, and so last time I checked, because I know this time last year we counted them out, or I did, the Lakers, and they made some moves at the middle, and they
I
end up
know.
in the Western Finals. So
Yeah,
uh,
good point.
so
Yeah.
I'll never downplay their potential, and so
No.
yeah, that's the scary part. You just look right down the list there. Uh, this team would have to play at its very best, I think, to have a chance to stay in the top six. I mean, probably play over their head, to be
Yeah.
honest.
All right,
I
let's
don't
get to
think talent
yeah.
wise they are quite there.
All right, let's bring Ryan and Sacktown into this discussion. Ryan's going to have the pregame show coming up at 6:30. The three of us will be together again at halftime and then back here on the postgame show. So, Ryan, you got an Orlando team that's coming in tonight. Both teams played last night, and the Kings have been not even have they been bad on the second night of back-to-back. They haven't even been competitive on the second night of back-to-backs this year. So, what do we expect from the Kings tonight? I have no idea.
Well, if we're going to go by the numbers, we're going to expect about, let's see, give or take 42% from the field, bad three-point shooting, and a loss because they haven't won yet on a second night of a back-to-back. So this team coming in tonight, Orlando, 7th game this year, second night of a back-to-back. So they are well-seasoned and likely will be ready to go. Short travel from San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. They lost last night, so I'd always rather play a team after a win in a back-to-back. This is a good young team and a hungry team. So Kings are going to have to play one of their very best games to be able to get the win.
Jerry, they have a young player in Paulo Banchero. Do you like him?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's everything he's supposed to be. He's better than I thought he'd be. He's not a great shooter, but he gets great shots. He's so mobile and strong, and that really he's clearly the right guy to be taken number one, which is pretty rare, as you know. But the guy has made a difference. He's like what really top flight young players are supposed to do. Number one picks make teams better. Which quite honestly, Wembanyama hasn't done that with the Spurs.
Ryan, the Magic are 5th in the East, and I think a lot of fans in Sacramento don't know a lot about the Magic. And you just talked about them. What makes them relevant now in the East? Now, I wouldn't put them with Boston, Milwaukee, or Philly, but the point is they're right in the middle of things at 5th in the Eastern Conference.
Defense, gentlemen. They are 3rd in defensive rating and 6th in points allowed per game. So that's where they hang their hat. On top of that, you guys talk about Banchero, Franz Wagner. He's having a huge season so far for them, and they're just getting it done. They find a way to get it done most nights, and they shoot smart shots and get to the free throw line.
Well, I'd sure like to see the Kings come out with a good start. The first half in a lot of these games have been so puzzling to me, Jerry. The road trip, it makes you scratch your head, that how many times do we come on at halftime talking about the Kings are in a hole,
Yeah, and I mean, and of course, like I say, they're just dependents on making the 3-point shot. It's fool's gold at times. It's like, we've seen them come out scorching hot, and yet by the end of the quarter, the other team is caught up, type thing. It's like last night. I knew the Kings, I wasn't sure where they're going to be because they start off with a nice big lead, and here by the quarter, they had given up the lead. So, you're like, okay, this Charlotte team that's decimated is playing with you. That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I look at the NBA right now, and okay, we're done with the sample size. Okay, we now know who the teams are in the Western Conference. Okay, and so here's what I'm ready to say right now. I know Denver's going to be there as long as Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are on the floor. Yep. They're there. So I'm putting them still as the team to beat in the West because I still think that when they're healthy, they're the team to beat. Minnesota's the real deal, gents. Okay, they're the real deal. Okay, they're 24-8. Oklahoma City also has proven that they are not a fluke. All right, they've now played enough games. They're 23-9. Okay, that's not a fluke. Here's the other thing. They win on the road. You know, we talk about teams that win on the road. The Kings won on the road last year. Do you know that the Oklahoma City Thunder are 9-4 on the road? Okay. They've only had 13 road games. They've had 19 home games. So that means they're going to get tested more on the road, but they've proven that they can play away from home. The Clippers, to me, when they're healthy, guys, and again, they have been this year, we're talking about Kawhi Leonard, they're not going anywhere, assuming that they're healthy. They're legit. They're 20-12. All right. Then you have Sacramento, New Orleans, Dallas, Phoenix, Houston, and the Lakers. After those 4 teams that I just mentioned, Memphis, Oklahoma City, Denver, and the Clippers, and I know the Kings don't match up that well against New Orleans, and they're 0-3 this year, but I like the Kings with all those other teams. I think that this is going to be a real fight down to the game 82.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think there's a lot of things to shake out. I mean, they could certainly more than hold their own with any of those. They've proven that. But it's also true that if they don't get better, so especially on defense, they could also end up behind all of them. Or they could end up ahead of all but those 3, I think. You know, and I always say with Minnesota, you know, people are a little bit surprised, but if you really watched late in the year when they traded and got Mike Conley and got Karl Anthony Towns back, that was a different ball club. And so to me, it's like, yeah, well, they started where they finished a little and better and healthier. So, yeah, and Chet Holmgren has been the perfect fit.
Yep.
For that, you know, in other words, he's a rookie that was ready to play at a high level and fit in with, you know, proven guys. So, yeah, but I'm with you guys. Denver, they're healthy. The coach, the superstar, 2 superstars really. And when you get into playoff basketball, so often it's a 2-man game in key situations. And I don't know anybody that's any better than their 2-man game.
And that's why, and Ryan, that's why last night's games are so frustrating, because those are the games that when you get down to 82, and all teams will have bad losses, but on your home, you just could not have the table set any better. And that game's gone. And in this conference with the team, that's a bad loss, and that could affect your playoff seedings.
Well, and you've got to keep it to just that, Grant, a bad loss. But I think that this is the line. If they don't get it between this loss that we're talking about now and the Portland loss in a very short period of time, this team's not going to get it at all. Because you get a couple more of those, you're looking at the play-in towards the end of the season, because the teams you talked about atop the West, I mean, the Clippers, they've won 12 of 14. I know Kawhi was out for a little bit, but I don't see them going anywhere. So I think the rest of the teams you named, those are the teams that are fighting to get a first-round playoff series on the road. And
you better pray that De'Aaron Fox does not miss any more time this year, because to me, you're going to fall right off the map in the West. If you missed De'Aaron Fox for a week or 2, this team's not going to win many games.
Well, De'Aaron, the thing about De'Aaron that's just so valuable to this team is he's the only guy that can really go get his own shot under duress in tough situations. Most teams have a couple of guys like that. The Kings really don't. And that, to me, kind of shows up periodically.
All right, I want to spend a moment and talk to you about Bennett's. Their new restaurant is in Rockland at the Blue Oaks Town Center. They're located in Sacramento, Howe and Fair Oaks, Roseville, Eureka Road, and Lead Hill Road. And, of course, their third location at the Blue Oaks Town Center in Rockland. If you go to bennettsrestaurants.com, you can check out their menu, prime seafood and steak at Bennett's, 60 different types of wine available by the glass. Don't forget about their weekend brunch, the weekend prime rib, great happy hour specials during the week on their apps and drinks. Go to bennettsrestaurants.com. You will love all 3 of the locations. Kings and Magic tonight. Rhino with the pregame at 6:30. The 3 of us back at halftime, and then we will wrap it up on the postgame show. And we'll see if the Kings can answer the bell tonight. Oklahoma City is that team right now, right, guys? The team that I thought they would be a playoff team before the season began, but I didn't think they would be where they are. Jerry, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I guess the word you use with him is special, right? He's a special player, is he not?
Oh, he's absolutely that. I mean, he's a 6'5", 6'6" kid that can go get his shot. He makes everybody around him a little better. Clearly, an MVP candidate. I mean, anytime you put a list of MVP players, he's got to be in the top 3 or 4. And I'm with you. I thought this team would be a playoff team, but I never expected it to be
No.
this good. Mainly because I didn't really think Holmgren would be as good as he is. I think that's probably the key difference there. But yeah, you got to like their future. I mean,
Oh boy.
they're probably not ready to compete for the West right now. I don't think, but
They're loaded
they're
with
going to
draft
be.
picks, Jerry. They're loaded with high
Oh,
draft picks still coming up.
well, Sam Presti is maybe the best GM in the league and has been for a dozen years, and has to do it. Limited money, ownership situations, but the guy, always comes out ahead. It seems.
The one team, Ryan, that I think will elevate, and they've won 4 in a row now, if they're healthy, are the Phoenix Suns. I just think they have too much talent. They're now 18 and 15 again. They've won 4 in a row, so it appears they're getting their act together. What about you?
Grant, I think that ship sailed. I just don't see it. I can't see those three being on the court together a long enough period healthy. Durant's playing some of the best basketball of his career this year, so you have to put that out there so it still is possible. But I just don't see it working, Grant. They've spent all the money on 3 players, and everybody else has been an afterthought when building that roster.
All right. So you think you're not counting on them, right? You think they're at the best they play in team, correct?
I think they're at the best playing team, but could make some noise because they have those ISO guys whose game translates to the playoffs.
All right. And then Jerry, I want to talk to you about the Warriors. Am I crazy to write off the Warriors?
Well, if you are, so am I, which isn't a surprise to anybody. But as far as being a contender, they're not a contender. Could they get in a play in and beat somebody that's maybe better just because of Steph and their experience and the championship caliber things they've been through? But as far as contending for the Western Conference, I don't think so.
Yeah. And do you think, guys, just kind of look in your crystal ball, you think Draymond Green will be on the Warriors after the trade deadline? Ryan?
Yes, I do,
Okay.
Grant. I think you will.
Jerry, do you think there are general managers out there that would love to have Draymond Green on the team? Would it be risky? Would it have to be the right fit? Would it have to be a championship caliber team that just needs that one piece? I mean, how would you look at him if you were GM, Jerry?
Well, I'd look at him as damaged goods.
Okay.
I mean, having said that, might be a team that would look at him. I would say this: if in fact there's a team that would trade for him, it'll be based on they're trying to trade you their guy they want rid of. We'll trade you our high price problem for your high priced problem.
You guys don't think realistically with the contract that Draymond's on that the Kings wouldn't consider taking a run at Draymond?
If they do, they're making a huge mistake, in my opinion.
Well, you got 3 more. I mean, 3 more years after this.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know why you would think it's going to get better. He's on, I think, he could still play and he could help the Kings. If he was on a one with all the issues, I might take a run at him if it's a 1-year contract.
Yeah, a little flyer
type thing. But now I just think obviously Kings need to do something, and they need that kind of player to some degree.
Well, Mike Brown knows him as well as anybody.
Yeah,
and that's why I bring it up. That's exactly why I bring it up. And then you parlay that with Vivek, who seems to meddle at times, as you say, Grant. So if there's pressure to make a move, it just seems like something that could happen.
Well, both teams, certainly the Golden State Warriors, would be in the market to do something.
100%.
So,
Yeah. I'm
But
just telling you, I'm on record as saying I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't.
do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it.
No, I wouldn't do it. And that gets us, and we have a lot of people asking possible trade scenarios. I don't know about possible trade scenarios. Here's what I do think, okay? Monty McNair's very bright, has done a nice job with this team. He sees the same issues that we see. He's not stupid, okay? He is going to try to make this team better at the trade deadline. I'm with Jerry. I would not trade Fox, Sabonis, or Murray. That's just me personally. Now, if you told me, hey, I could get Giannis Antetokounmpo for Keegan Murray, okay. But my point is, that's my future. That's my nucleus. I'm open to anyone else. I'm not trading those three guys. That's just me.
Yeah, well, I think too, and Monk, but he's a free agent, so that's another issue. And but I do think that, for the Kings, it's almost going to have to be a case where you maybe trade two guys for one to actually improve. I mean, to get something that you specifically need. And I don't know, I do know some guys that might be out there, but I don't know if that could work.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And I guess the question becomes, what do you think the most immediate need is out of the different positions we've talked about?
Well, for me, they've got two. They really need another a big 4-5 kind of guy.
Yeah,
that can kind of like Lyle's, only better, more lively, and a better two. They in my mind, Herter and Duarte, they're just not quite good enough. I mean, what if you in a perfect world, if you could get a White from Boston, that type of off guard who can really guard and make shots, that type, it would really be great, I think. But or I like even young guys, bigs that might be available that aren't great, but would be something they don't have, like Obi Toppin from Indiana. A 6'9" lively guy, can make threes, and a fit would be, because you have to look at it like would be a good fit with Sabonis, would fill in some of the gaps.
Well, Jerry and I, we've been around this team enough with the present ownership, and I'm just telling you, if this trend of bad losses continues, and I don't think it will. I think this team is talented enough, but if they were to lose tonight and go into a funk, it would not be a pleasant place to be working for a while. There's going to be Jerry's laughing because he knows what I'm talking about, right? I mean, it just would not. Okay.
Well, I guess nobody here has to worry about that, so that's a good thing. I think the one thing that I really want to look at as this goes along is what's this next step for this team, and what's really the undercurrent of what's going on, and how is it going to keep seeping out? Because we talk about what's different and nobody can define it. We see Malik, who argued with Mike Brown last game. First time we've seen that. We see guys arguing with the refs. Weren't seeing that last year. Seems to be some frustration at times on offense. So what's the story underneath the story within?
Well, I do think so much of it is brought on by expectations, which this team really hasn't met, and that's normal. I mean, for guys, when you're talking about championships, as was put out there, which, I mean, I don't blame the coach for saying it, but I mean, it made no sense to me because it's not a championship team, but I mean, but the players, clearly, and then fans, I mean, we all want them to be better than they are, but when you're not, I mean, the expectations are what really create more problems than anything else in the league when you can't meet them. You see it in every sport.
Okay, so here's you keep on talking about Malik Monk as being part of the four. Jerry, I want you to step into a general manager's position because you've done it before and we haven't. the Kings have an idea in his agent what type of money and comparative with other teams. If the Kings feel that they're not going to have enough money, meaning that they feel that they cannot afford Malik Monk after this season, would he be a name that you would move at the trade deadline? Now, that would be the same for any team that would acquire him. It would be on a short-term rental. They'd have to think, well, we have the money and it's a place that he wants to be. But if you feel that you're not going to be able to re-sign him, do you move him at the deadline?
Well, he has value. I mean, he clearly
Yeah.
has a lot of value around the league, and yes, if you can't, and quite honestly, I'm pretty sure some of those discussions are out there, and I think Grant, you certainly like I do that before trades are made, somehow or another, teams know that certain guy will agree to sign with them, or they
That's right.
free agents. So
That's so crazy
miraculously,
how
we
that
don't know how that
happens.
happens.
Yeah.
But
Weird.
anyway, yeah, I think I'm pretty sure some of that would be going on. And I mean, if there's a case where they're saying, hey, we got to have, 5 years at 150 million, well, that's probably well past his value to the Kings or the league for that matter.
Right.
And I mean, I do think he's probably got more value to the Kings than the league. Quite honestly, having said that, I think probably 20 teams would like to get him.
Well,
I think he's that kind of guy
Yep.
that could fit in, a lot of ways. It's kind of the Bobby Jackson kind of thing. You can, a guy that can come in and make you better most games.
Well, I'll tell you, Malik's not giving the Kings any hometown discount. All right, I keep on hearing that. He's not Malik. I'm telling you right now, Malik Monk has a extremely high opinion of himself, and I'm okay with that. The guy's produced, but anyone that thinks that, well, gee, he wants to be with De'Aaron Fox, and no, he is going where the money is. Okay, and just do not forget about that. So you have to not only try to win games, but Monty McNair's got to think, gee, okay, what's going to happen in the offseason? Are we going to lose Malik Monk, for nothing? They know that they have an idea what it's going to take to keep him. Those decisions are being made, and don't be shocked if we hear his name coming up around the trade deadline. If the Kings internally feel like they're not going to be able to keep him, all right? Because
Don't be.
No one's talking about that, but I could see that as a scenario.
It's actually the opposite. Don't be shocked if you hear his name. Be shocked if you don't hear his name. The Kings would be stupid not to, considering that they don't have a lot of draft capital coming up in the next couple of years. This year's first-round pick still tied to the trade that brought Kevin Huerter here.
Well, too, it's like, to me, they ought to figure out a way. I mean, if worst comes to worst, sign and trade. Sign and trade. So you don't lose him for nothing. I mean, so you I always say that's one of the biggest mistakes that Monty's made personally is losing Bogey for nothing.
For nothing. Terrible move.
I mean, Bogey's still a heck of a player. I mean, in a lot of ways, he's every bit as valuable six man as Malik is.
Yep.
Yeah. And here's another consideration that goes on top of, if you can pay Malik this, what about De'Aaron Fox? If he makes first team All NBA, he is due for a Supermax extension. What are the Kings going to do at that point? Where is the loyalty going to be? So if he very well could this year with the numbers he's putting up, 40% from beyond the arc this season on more attempts, and the injuries to some of the other top point guards in the league. So that changes the scenario for Monty McNair as well.
Yeah, I think it's
but I'll tell you how I feel about this. Hey, it's your own free agents, your own guys. You can go over the cap to sign them.
Yeah.
So it's just money, and it's not my money, but that's what the good teams do. They don't lose. They don't lose the players they want to keep. And over the years, the Kings have done that. Lost guys for no reason other than money.
Well, we'll see, guys. Looking forward to seeing which Sacramento Kings team shows up tonight. I don't know. I'm not even going to make a prediction. I don't like the numbers facing this team on the second night. of a back-to-back, but there are games that I like to circle based on what's happened. I don't want to go overboard in one game of 82. I think this is an important game tonight, just based on how the Kings have been playing lately. They didn't have a great road trip. I know they had a good road trip record-wise. I didn't like the way they played in the first two games. Now they come home and they had a stinker last night. If they follow that up with tonight, it's a bad taste in your mouth because they got a long road trip coming up after this next home game. So listen, it's not going to make or break the season, guys, a win or a loss tonight. But boy, a loss tonight is going to it's going to start really raising a lot of doubts. I guess that's the point I'm making, Jerry.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree. I mean, I'd say this: they have to play well.
Yeah.
They have to play well. Now, if they play really well against a really good team that's both are on back-to-backs and lose, I think I could deal with that. But they better play well, and
Yeah.
we need to see their A game, whatever it is. And I mean, and it could be that they can have their A game and the Magic have their A game and the Magic may be better.
Well, I want
it
to
could
talk.
be.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, and here's the reality, Grant. You don't get this game tonight. This could be the start of something you do not want if you're Sacramento, because you've got a game again on Friday, and then you've got a game on Sunday with other teams that you should beat.
Speaking of A game, that's New Works Plumbing. They always have their A game. For your plumbing concerns, plumbing repairs, go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you. All right. The three of us will be back at halftime. Ryan, you have a good pregame show coming up at 6:30, my friend.
Thank you, Napes. Appreciate you guys.
All right, Jerry, thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you at halftime and should be interesting.
And to everyone else, don't forget, Rhino, 6:30 with the pregame show. Talk to you soon, everyone. Thanks for joining us right here